Okay, so I've started recording because it's 7, but I don't know, Steve, if we want to wait another minute for Janet.
Yeah, we can wait a minute.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get started. Um, Bringing this meeting to order. This is the December 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Newburyport Conservation Commission, taking place on the Zoom platform, and this meeting is being recorded. Okay, a roll call of who's present since we're all online. Barb Riley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Dan Warshall, Dan, are you here?
Can you hear me now?
Dan, can you? Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay.
And I am also here, Stephen Moore. Okay, we do not have any certificates of compliance, requests for minor modifications, or requests for extensions, so we'll move to public hearings. First one is 5 Basin Street. They have requested to continue to our next meeting.
Okay, I'll just interject to say that Janet has joined.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion? Somebody?
Is the motion to open the public hearings? Is that what we're doing?
No,
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah,
we decided we didn't need to open the public hearings. I'm not
Yep.
quite sure why that was decided, but because that's a little confusing, because if we don't open the public hearings,
Well,
um,
so what's the motion that we're looking for to?
to continue 5 Basin
Oh,
Street.
sorry. Okay, yes. Motion to continue 5 Basin Street to the next meeting, which would be
The 16th.
the
16.
16th, December 16th.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Barb Riley,
yes,
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, next up is 10 I Street, notice of intent. And I think James Pike was in the,
Yep, Jim is here, and Jim, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Why don't I have, I don't know why I don't have video.
Oh, sorry, are you not able to see? Is anybody not able to see? Here, I could
no, I
try.
can see it.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can
Okay.
see, I just couldn't see myself.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's okay.
All right, as long as you can hear me.
Yep. So I guess I'll say that myself and Julia, Janet, and Barbara were able to do a second site visit. So this site, I went out solo November 13th, November 20th, was after our last hearing. Jim had staked out, and a little hard to see in the photos, but one line where the edge of the proposed porch would be versus where the flood zone would be mapped if we were to map it according to that GIS layer that we discussed last time.
Okay. And I went out there on Friday and got a tour.
Yeah.
Great.
So if you just want to describe a little bit about the project again, and then we can talk about it.
You want me to describe the project again?
Yeah, just briefly.
Yeah, sure. We're looking to put, we'd all kind of agreed a 14-foot deck on the back. Footings outside the flood zone was gonna cantilever over the footings. The only section that would be in the flood zone is that little triangle that I'm standing in right there, probably 8 feet long by 3 feet wide, tapering to nothing. But obviously the height of the deck will be roughly my shoulders there, obviously well out of flood zone and well above 2 feet above base flood. Um, I think all but one of you I know was able to make it, so I think everyone should have a pretty good idea of what we all talked about when we were out there. But if you got any questions, let me know.
And these were roughly where the pilings would go, or the diamond pier footings.
Yeah, those blocks exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Four of them. All of those to be set completely outside of, where we measured the VE zone to be.
How much use do you anticipate if you build the deck and then going towards the water? Would people be going down from the deck or somehow around the house and getting down to try to get to the water? There's no beach.
No, deck, I mean, maybe occasionally. The deck was much more for just to be able to, be out and enjoy the view and the sun on the back of the house.
Okay.
And Jim, you had mentioned that the diamond pier footings, that they would not require any digging soil, just, disturbing the soil or removing any of the vegetation. Is that correct?
That is correct. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the diamond piers. They use a big metal dowel that just gets driven in, so you don't actually remove anything. You don't have to disturb at all. It's equivalent of setting a cinder block on the sand, and then everything else is done underground.
Yep. And then you had said that it would be 2 feet above the highest ground elevation. Is that correct?
It's going to be significantly more than 2 feet. Roughly, I had it on my diagram. I think it's like 4'8", 4 foot something.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I was not there when you guys discussed the VE zone and the line. If anybody wants to talk about that and maybe how our feelings are on that.
Yeah, so oops, sorry. What I remember, gosh, it's my daughter calling. What I remember our discussion was about basically that we felt comfortable having viewed the site and seen the topography and seeing where the house was, or which is outside of the flood zone altogether in the X zone, and then where the deck extends out to from there, which is again, as Jim said, going to be elevated over 4 feet above grade. So that clearly meets all of the guidelines for Plum Island in that location. It extends out a little bit in one corner over where the V zone is, still elevated that high. There would be no footings in the V zone, but that elevated part would be in the V zone. But what we determined being out there was that it really didn't make sense that there would be any impact to the structure or to the dune within the V zone. Based on the design and the location and the slope of the land and the grade changes didn't seem to be significant enough to cause any material impact on the project or the dune. So we felt like, this would potentially be permittable with findings related to that under a typical order of conditions. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
That
correct.
it sounded right to me.
I think the only question that we had really was that it's just, wasn't surveyed. So we're really just dealing with the GIS map and that nothing's going to be in the ground that's in the V zone, but everything's going to be cantilevered over into the line that demarcates the V zone.
Mhm.
That's correct. As far as the regulations, I think most of you know if something is in the V zone, well, first of all, something that's considered redevelopment wouldn't be allowed at all, but any portion of a structure would have to be elevated 2 feet above the base flood elevation. Here, wherever the flood zone actually is, the base flood elevation is 14 feet, so that would be 16 feet, and that's kind of unreasonable. But I think it's within the commission's discretion to maybe decide on a case-by-case basis based on what they observe in the field that a portion like we see Jim standing in here might not actually be in the flood zone. Those GIS layers are kind of a screening tool or a starting point. So to Barb's point, I think there is some, it's not totally clear here where the actual boundary of the flood zone is. Personally, I think it's reasonable to say that the area we're looking at right now is outside because it's at the same elevation of areas that the map depicts as X zone or outside of the flood zone. But that's important because if we decide that there is flood zone here, we have to adhere to that 2 feet above BFE rule. If we decide that this little portion is outside of the flood zone, then it can be 2 feet above highest ground elevation. So just keep that in mind as far as the rules that we have to abide by.
Say that again, Kelsey.
So if the findings like Julia was mentioning that the commission can list in their permit will be important because if we can't within the regulations say this is in the flood zone, but we think it's okay to have it be less than 16 feet high. The regulations are pretty clear cut that if it's in the flood zone, it needs to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation, which in this case, 16 feet. However, we could put a finding that the commission finds based on their observations and photographs and field investigation that this small portion appears to be outside of the flood zone, then it would be okay to say 2 feet above the highest ground elevation is what the regulations are required by the regulations for Plum Island.
My only caution with that particular approach to the commission saying that we've determined that this area might be outside of the V zone is that we really don't have the expertise to make that call. And so I don't want to be caught in a position where people are saying, why is the commission determining what's in or out of a flood zone without any data to support it? Because we don't have any survey data here. But I think we could say that based on the fact that where the structure is and where the footings are as mapped by FEMA outside of any high hazard flood zone, meaning typically, unless it was on Plum Island, nothing would have to be elevated above grade at all. That the location where the corner of the new deck would extend over what is mapped as V zone doesn't appear to the commission to be likely impacted by any significant flooding or wave action due to the minimal change in grade between the X zone and the location where the cantilevered deck would overhang. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, so
Yes.
we'd want to be careful in the findings about the footings
Yeah.
being what's contacting the ground. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So the footings are outside the V zone as mapped by FEMA.
FEMA, yeah.
And it's cantilevered over what, 2 or 3 feet?
We could say it's 2 or 3 feet into the V zone, but elevated almost 5 feet above that grade, which is marginally the same as the grade that's mapped as X. And so commission's judgment is that there would be no likely impact to the deck or to the dune from this cantilevered overhang of into the V zone.
And again, I think we all know, but the cantilever is only in that farthest corner. It's not
Right.
even the whole thing. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, 95+% of it is completely out of the V zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So are we all comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The only other thing I would add is if we could get some native vegetation added.
Sure. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Particularly on that very slight slope in front of the deck, if there was
Yep.
something there and anywhere else you want to put it.
Okay. Sure.
We love native vegetation out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's plenty of room out there for us to put some.
Yeah.
It'd be nice too, actually.
Okay. The other thing, after being out there, are you going to put in like a concrete pad for a gas tank or something? Is that?
No gas, all electric out there.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody have anything else?
So Kelsey, do all those findings go into the permit? Is that how those get identified, described?
Thanks for that. Yeah, and I wish I had an example up, but there's kind of the regular order of conditions, and then our special conditions and our findings will be a page at the end, and it's kind of the commission finds that. Here I have some examples. These look like we won't use these. They were just kind of for brainstorming purposes, but it sounds like, as we just discussed, we'll want to mention the location of the footings being outside of the V zone and that's particular design where there's no digging and it's in a sandy area. If there's anything else specifically people want me to mention in the findings, that's something I can draft back at the office unless you have something verbatim you'd like me to take down in the moment. But I think the findings would be about the design of the porch location and lack of vegetation impacts.
And Kelsey, just as a FYI, there are in our files back at the office some examples digitally, of findings sections that you
Okay,
can
great.
use as models that we've put into others. So that it's pretty straightforward. But I think that sounds fine.
And the special condition of some amount of native vegetation. I don't know
Right.
if there's particular plants or a number of plants that the commission would look for, maybe a square footage.
Well, because this, I don't think requires any mitigation because of what they're doing. We can't really specify something, I don't think, but I would suggest as much as possible.
Well, I would sort of disagree with the fact that we can't specify because in this case, the deck, it is a new deck. It's going over a certain pretty large area of the site. There's some scrub vegetation. It's some weeds scattered around and some various things growing. But once the deck is up there, there won't be anything that will be able to grow in that location anymore. So I think it's reasonable to specify, and I think it's nice to be able to say, oh yeah, we'll plant some vegetation in areas where we can, but unless we specify a square footage, some sort of reasonable square footage, maybe the same square footage that's going to be sort of overhanging the V zone, or I don't know, some percentage of the size of the deck, then I think it's easier to follow up after when we're looking at
Okay.
compliance with the order conditions to be able to say, okay, here's where the planting area is and here's the square footage and they planted it.
What about just along the end of the deck? It would help with erosion if it
That's a
were.
great idea.
A great idea.
Okay, like something 3 feet wide off the end of the deck, 4 feet
Yeah.
wide.
Actually,
And
that's
then-
excellent because if there was any, extreme sort of flood situation within that V zone area, the vegetation would slow down any waters before it reached the upland area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great mitigation measure.
Okay. Okay,
Do we
any,
typically attach the native plants? I mean, I know there's a document that shows all the native plants that are typical for Plum Island. Is that something we could do, is attach that to
Yep,
it
I've seen that,
as
and yeah,
recommended or as, an
absolutely.
example of what's
Like
native?
native coastal plants on Plum Island. Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that.
all right, do we have any comments from the public? Uh,
You can raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment.
okay, seeing nothing. Um, okay, I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, Barb Riley,
Yes.
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, and I think we're now going to go into the order of conditions, which I think would be all of our standard ones, the one about the native plants, and then the findings, which I think you got a good handle on, Kelsey.
Yes, I did.
Anybody have any comments? Anything to add?
Oh, maybe we should say that there's no, I know that we've already discussed this with the applicant, but that there will be no lattice around the base of the deck, that the area below the deck shall be left completely open.
Okay, yes, I can put that.
Yeah, no intent to cover that.
Okay, if there's nothing else, can I get a motion?
Motion to issue the order of conditions for 10 I Street.
Second.
Okay, a roll call vote. Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, we're all set there.
Great.
Ne-
I was just say thank you, everyone. I appreciate
All
all
right.
your time on
Yep.
this. I really do.
All right,
Thank you.
good night.
Thank
All right, good
you.
night, guys.
Thank you.
Next, we have 23 Low Street, request for determination of applicability.
Good evening, everyone. This is Luke Olson from TRC Companies.
And there was somebody else.
Good evening. My name is Mike Pattison. I'm from NextGrid.
Okay. Okay, if you'd like to take us through the project.
Yeah, so I went out to the site with Kelsey and a few of the Conservation Commission members. What was it, last Tuesday, I believe? No, last Monday. And there were a few questions that popped up. So I just wanted to address those off the bat. So one of the questions was about tree removal on site. And there will be a little bit kind of along the southwestern and southeastern portions of the site. As we were on site, I pointed out mainly there was autumn olive vegetation in this area, which is an invasive species. There was also some oriental bittersweet. So we presume that this would be the vast majority of the vegetation that would be removed in this area. I believe it was only 0.04 acres total, so definitely minimal vegetation removal. And then another one of the questions was regarding impervious surface and how there would be a decrease. And so, as we saw on site, there was a large portion of the site that was already paved. And so, this will be cut, and instead of asphalt, there will be crushed stone in the area that the actual battery storage area will be. So, in total, it will be about a net decrease of 2,962 square feet. just again, the removal of the asphalt and replacing it with crushed stone, this will allow water to seep through the area. And then additionally, there was a question about a 20-foot maintenance path. So that's a utility maintenance area to the pole cluster. So the utility company requires a 20-foot path to all poles for any maintenance activities. So it's just to make sure that there's room for any emergency vehicles or anything along those lines. There will be no new road or paving, and there won't actually be. It's more of just on the plans of visual aid to show where that 20-foot boundary path would be. Like I said, there would not be any additional paving. One of the additional questions was, will any equipment or materials be stored on the maintenance path or in the battery storage facility? And the answer to that is no. There will not be any materials stored in those places other than the battery storage itself in the outlined battery storage area. So from this picture, you can see where the actual battery storage facility will be, kind of on this back portion of the site, all completely, I guess it is kind of crushed stone already, but a little bit further up, it is paved. So this area will be where yes, that's a good picture as well. This will be where the battery storage is. And as you can see, that one tree in the back is that one eastern red cedar I was talking about. Not sure if that will be included in the tree removal, but all of those shrubs kind of along the edge of the site are all autumn olive and including oriental bittersweet. And like I said, just invasive vegetation. So even if those do have to be removed, it's not a net negative to the environment necessarily.
Okay, so I'm curious why those are, I don't mind invasives being removed. I'm all for it, but I'm curious why they're being removed. It doesn't seem like they interfere with.
Sure. Yeah. If you could go back to the actual plan set, Kelsey.
Everyone see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So the kind of like bubbles almost on like the southwestern portion of the area. I believe that will just be to give a little bit more room for any vehicles that are going to be going through the area. But yes, this like almost like circles along the left side there. That is the limit of the removal. So it's a very small section. Like I said, only 0.04 acres total. So I don't believe there will be much, if at all. In terms of the actual reasoning behind that, I can double check with the engineers on the project just to make sure that it is for vehicles coming into the area or construction or whatnot. So I will follow up with that.
Okay, because I see the colored portion there is the 20-foot path for utility poles and something or other. Is that where vehicles are going to be driving, or the vehicles to the left of that or to the west? I guess it looks like those circles are quite a ways away from where there's going to be any vehicle.
Utility.
Sorry, if I could answer. So there's some specific like fire safety requirements that any type of combustible material needs to be at least 10 feet away from the battery systems. So just clearing out a bit of this, like the light vegetation around it for that safety reason. The colored area that Luke was speaking about, that is just shown, and that's just there's nothing new being added. It's just to be shown for the ability for the utility vehicles to get in their bucket trucks if they need to do any type of work or work on the utility poles.
Okay, I guess I was looking at the wrong thing. Way over on the left, there are some circles kind of along the property line or near it. Are those where we're talking about the autumn olive, or is it
Yeah, you were saying southwest. So I was looking at the left end of the site as well, the bottom left.
Because where the proposed batteries are going to be, I don't think there's any vegetation there right now.
I don't believe there is. Pardon me, Kelsey, could you just zoom in a little bit?
Isn't the vegetation between where the batteries are and where the poles are
So
that you're
that
taking
area
down?
primarily is already cleared back. I think Luke's just pointing out, if you look at it's not the circles, but it's like the half loop line that go in a straight line on
Okay.
the eastern side of the battery
The
compound.
eastern
Yeah.
side. Okay, I
Yeah,
was looking at the
just stating that that is going to be pushed back a little bit. I mean, if you look at, like, I'm looking at Google Earth, it's not very much that there's existing. It's already primarily cleared out. And then there's just going to be some slight clearing to the left of the utility pole area. And that is just to give the setback requirements for the proposed utility poles. But again, it's not very much. So it may be limited to just some tree trimming just to make sure they don't interfere with the proposed utility poles and the lines.
Okay, just so we're talking about the same thing. There's something called a utility load break, which,
Yep,
okay, are we talking about the half circles to the left of that is where we're,
correct. So that is noted as the proposed, what does it say in
tree
the,
line.
yeah, the proposed tree line. So it's basically just pushing it back a little bit so it's away from the line, from the proposed utility equipment. So like the utility recloser, the utility load break, proposed POI for aux service, those are all those will be on utility poles.
okay. So basically you're trying to remove anything that might fall on the wires? Is that,
I think it's just
or,
basically interfering with the wires cost, because obviously, if you drive down any street, you can see it looks very strange, but you will see that their trees have been trimmed around the utility poles. It's just so nothing interferes, and yes, to
yeah,
basically keep things from falling on them. We're not saying that we're going to go out there and clear cut everything. We just need to push some of the branches and trees back some.
okay.
I have a question about the wetlands here in the buffer zone. Like where I don't see a buffer zone demarcated on this plan. Am I missing something? Or the wetland?
I believe the green is the 100-foot buffer to this wetland. Is that correct,
Oh, okay.
Luke?
Yeah.
That's the wetland. Okay.
And the red is the 25-foot.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, I
Swap
believe that's correct.
I think the green is the 25 foot, the red is the 100 foot.
Okay. So in that case, given that whatever trees you're taking down, do you have a plan to replace them anywhere else on the site? And
Not
do you
currently.
have them like marked and do we know how many trees?
Again, I don't think it'll be any clear cutting. It'll mainly just be trimming of those. It's more large shrubs. The autumn olive shrubs that are there are probably with about 15 to 20 feet tall. So I would imagine it would just be removing the limbs that are going to be closest to the actual poles. I do not think that there will be any legitimate removals, but I can double check on that for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, because that's very different. So if there's nothing being removed, then and you're just pruning for sort of like a access way, then that's one thing. So I would just say maybe that there's a condition, if it's a -3 determination, that a condition be that if there is any tree to be removed, that the applicant shall notify the commission of a location where it would be replaced.
Understood.
Okay.
And
Actually,
then yeah, go ahead.
if you wanted to remove the autumn olive, we'd be fine with that, given that it's an invasive. And then if you wanted to plant something, a low growing native shrub in its place, it's up to you. But
That could be accomplished. Yeah.
Okay.
It, that would have to be specified though. I mean, like we would need to know whether or not you're committing to do that or not committing to do that. So if that's part of the plan, then are we making that part of the plan?
It was not currently part of the plan, but like if you'd like, we can,
Yeah.
how many, how much ever we remove, we can replace with a native shrub.
Okay.
Again, I will follow back up and distinguish whether or not it was just going to be pruning of limbs that was going to be closest to the actual poles, or if there was going to be any full removal of trees. If there are going to be full removal of trees, it will be those autumn olives, which, like we had said, are invasive. So we can replace those with low growing shrubs. However, I'll just double check to make sure that we're all on the same page as to whether or not it was just going to be pruning or the actual removal.
Go
This
ahead.
is sort of an upland question, but that little shed that's on the other side of where the proposed um, batteries are going had a bunch of oil like in it, just containers of oil. Is that something that you own, or is that
No, that would be the owner of the lumber yard.
okay?
We do not own the property. We are just leasing a 5,000 square foot portion of the property.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had a question about what kind of batteries these are.
So they are called lithium iron. That's the type of battery compound it is. It's one of the safer versions. It's not what you see in like Teslas and vehicles. Um, it does not have the capacity, like the charge capacity that those do. So it's much safer and it's used primarily in like battery energy storage systems such as this, just because we don't need the maximum capacity for every square foot of equipment. So they are also triple containment. So there's the individual cell is hermetically sealed. Then those are packed into a module, which is also sealed. And then the modules are loaded on racks, and then they are in an IP55 steel container.
What what does IP55 mean?
So it's a type of basically you could spray a fire hose directly at it. So and that's one of the reasons they do it. So it's basically dust and water. It's I'm not going to call it environmentally proof, but it is uh, basically it's dust and water resistant.
Okay, because I did a little research on lithium ion batteries because I know that they sometimes just catch on fire. Um,
I would say that they don't randomly just catch on fire. They were
well,
damaged or
there's a
they're
reason. Yeah, there's a reason for why
yes,
they do.
they were damaged or they were not operated properly. I will say that these ones, they have 24/7 monitoring. They are liquid cooled. So there is a HVAC system that runs cooling pipes throughout the entire system to cool every single module within the system. Uh, it also tests, I don't know, thousands of times per day, checks voltage, checks for any type of possible irregularities. If any type of irregularity is noted, the system will shut itself down and it notifies the monitoring company that would be hired for this.
Okay.
So these are extraordinarily safe. Um,
And this is outside our purview, but I mean, you're charging these at some point and then resending it back to the grid when needed, or I
so the way it works is there are two programs in Massachusetts. One's called the Connected Solutions Program, and the other one is the Clean Peak Program. The difference between the two is if one is offsetting a load, that would be the Connected Solutions This one is Clean Peak. It's a state-run program that mandates to be part of the program, the batteries have to be charged with renewable energy. So we're talking solar energy from, the prime charging times, I'd say 6 to, 2 p.m. And then at night is when wind is much more prevalent. So at night, it captures energy from wind farms. So the idea is this system charges during these times because the problem is right now there's a lot of solar. There's a lot of solar out there, but it's intermittent. The sun doesn't shine, it doesn't make as much power. But when the sun does shine, it can capture some of that excess electricity and store it. And then it takes that power and it discharges for during what's called like the peak time, peak draw, which is 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is basically the time when everybody turns everything on. And the main problem with is the main power generators in Massachusetts, they cannot meet this peak demand. So what they then do is they turn on these plants that we call peaker plants. They're usually older. A lot of them are oil burning. They are less efficient and they release significantly more emissions. And they only run them for this peak draw. So the idea is to get rid of those and use batteries. Batteries don't have any type of emission. They're not using volatile or flammable fluids. So they're significantly safer and they're better for the environment. And as I said, they're capturing that excess energy, excess solar and wind energy during times that it's not being used and redirecting it to be used during that peak draw time.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about this? Has this been along these same lines? Because this isn't really in our purview. It's really interesting, but has this been approved by zoning and looked at by
Our
the fire department?
planning and zoning hearing is tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay. And does that include the fire department?
So they did reach out. The zoning board reached out to us and said, "Hey, we need you to reach out to the fire chief." I called him and left a voicemail. I didn't get a response back. And then somebody in the planning board responded with their note saying they have two things. One is, God, where was it? It was they needed to have a vehicle safety turning analysis completed, which TRC is working on now. And then the second is they want a flow test done on the fire hydrant, the nearest fire hydrant. So, and that will also be taken care of.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about something that's in our purview?
Just one question about excavation for the proposed underground electric line. Is that the only place where you'll be sort of excavating that is between the 125 foot?
I mean, there will be some excavation done to clear out the area for the gravel and the concrete pads for the batteries and electrical equipment to be sitting on it. But I mean, I don't know if I would call it excavation, more just like some minor land grading.
Okay, I guess the only question, I mean, is about the invasives, whether they're going to be cut or pruned. If you wanted to commit to removing them and replacing them with something low growing tonight, we can probably close this out.
That sounds good to me. So if you want to put it in the order of conditions that, we have to remove the invasive species and, I mean, I think we could probably, do you have a specific list of native shrubs that you would like to see as the replacements?
We do for Plum Island, but not for here, I don't think. Something like viburnums.
Would it be possible to, I don't know, yeah, if you have a few species that you like, I don't know if that's something you would put in the order of conditions or.
But you don't get an order of conditions for this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Apologies.
That's, yeah. Mm. I mean, given that you have zoning and planning still coming up, so it's not as though this construction is going to be starting, next week or whatever.
Correct.
I think it makes more sense if you go out and take a look at those autumn olives again and the layout and see maybe the planning board makes some changes, maybe they don't. But give us a definite answer on what's going to be removed and what's not going to be removed, if anything, and then a proposal for anything that's going to be removed or that you'd like to remove. If it's the autumn olive, a replacement plan with species noted on an actual, like sketched out on a plan. Because given that this is an RDA, we really don't want to attach too many special conditions to it. We'd rather just have you present something that is showing that there's no impact.
Okay.
Yeah. I suspect Luke probably knows some low-growing native shrubs.
I can definitely suggest some, yes. The
Okay.
only thing I will say, if you were looking for us to remove all of the autumn olives and all the invasive vegetation around pretty much this entire western and southern edges of the project site, that will definitely be a lot more of a immediate impact than the proposed pruning or removal. Again, I will follow up to see exactly what that is, but if you were looking to have us remove all of that, like I said, it will definitely be a lot more than what is originally proposed.
Yeah. It's a lot more
Seems like a
work.
lot of unnecessary work. I mean, it sounds like they just need to trim the bushes that are there.
Yeah.
But if they do need to remove them, then they said they would replace.
If it's just
I-
pruning, it seems like we should leave it at that. You know,
Again, I will follow up on that. If it was up to me, I'd love all invasive species to be removed from all of the project sites, but that might be a lot more work for everyone involved than what is originally proposed. So I will follow up and I will get back to you as soon as we have an answer with that.
Okay. So you want to continue to our next meeting?
Rather not.
Yeah. Sounds like that we need to.
I think, yeah, we just need to, I don't think we have any real issues with what you're doing, except we just want to, have an answer on the invasives of what's happening with that.
Removal.
Well, I know this is our RDA. Is it not possible just have that as an order of condition that we need to submit a
No,
no?
because that what happens is, let's say you go out there and say, oh, we looked at it and actually we need to remove half of that stretch of autumn olive and replant, then we're going to replant in there. Well, then you're kind of like on the border of the 25-foot no disturb zone. And then there's all sorts of conditions around landscaping, and then it becomes an order of conditions when you've submitted an RDA. So if we want this to just continue to go as like a determination rather than an order of conditions, then I think it needs to stay sort of as minimally impactful as possible. In which case, I think the best move is for you to go out there and just confirm for us if what needs to get pruned, what might need to be removed, and if anything, one or two trees or shrubs or whatever needs to be removed, then that they will be replaced and with what, and put that on a plan. And then it can be maintained as an RDA and not get pushed into a notice of intent.
Understood.
That makes
When
sense.
is the next hearing?
December 19th.
16th.
Oh, sorry, 16th.
And if this was like the last thing you needed and you're going to start work on Friday or next week or something, then we could do this a little bit more, push this a little bit more tonight. But I think we have a little bit of time, right? Because you have a couple other things to get through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to continue
to the
Second.
16th.
to the 16th, yeah.
Did I hear a second in there anywhere?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Hold on a minute. Let me get the names up here. Barb Riley,
Yes,
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. Uh,
Thank you, everybody.
next,
Appreciate your time.
right.
Thank
All
you
right.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a nice
Good
night.
night. Next, we have approval of the prior meeting minute notes from 11:18. Anybody have any comments on that?
Look good.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Dan Warshall,
yes.
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, next is discussion of landowner goals for the city forest.
So, as a reminder, this is a form that was given to us by our forestry consultant, Woodsman Inc. And I think they're ideally looking for the commission to submit a single form as kind of the city's appointed authority of the forest. So I did receive feedback from Barbara, Janet, and Steve. And what I did is I started tracking it. Hold on, I'm going to share. In an Excel sheet and just kind of put an X. So it's set up with goals on one side and then importance to me or to us as the landowner, high, medium, or low. There's the option to put comments. So I haven't, identified who put what where or whose comments these are, but so far this is where we're at. So there's many ways we could go about this. One option is to just go line by line and kind of discuss where as a commission we think we'd like to put the X for our single form that we submit to the forester, or if anyone has any other ideas. Ideally, I think our consultant would like us, to get it sooner rather than later. So if we can finish tonight, that's great. But there's also, it's definitely okay to continue this at the December 16th meeting.
Why don't we get started on it and see how far we get?
Sure.
Go line by line. Um, so that first one, improve access for walking, skating, and recreation. Um, I'm the one who put high, but that was just to basically maintain the trail that's out there. I wasn't thinking about adding a parking lot or anything else other than the only thing would be the sign that's already there. So
Yeah, and I was thinking the same, but I put it as medium.
And I actually put low because I heard from Kelsey that the city was reluctant to want to put financial resources behind this, but maybe I heard that wrong. So I didn't want to commit. We do trail maintenance on a piece of land I have, and it's pretty pricey and ongoing. So that's where I came from with the low, was I was
yeah.
thinking of a financial impact to the city.
Well, I think you heard that correctly, but in my mind, if we're paying $3,600 for a plan and then we're not going to do anything that's included in that plan, it doesn't make any sense. And actually, the commission, or there's sort of an open space committee that Joe and I and Julia and Andy and Jordy and Mike Doucette are on, that kind of looks after the managed lands that the Conservation Commission has. And we have somebody who already does trail maintenance for us. And adding this, I don't think would add a whole lot to that. I don't know, Julia, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think DPS doesn't want to get involved, but they haven't been involved in our kind of trail maintenance anyway, really. We've stopped relying on them and we've been using Woodsman through our own sort of budget sources. I would guess I'd put this at medium for those reasons, for both of those reasons, because we don't really necessarily need to invest in trails in that area. There's not a lot of good access from the roadway for people to park and unless you live near there or walking over. I don't see it as a high priority. Maybe we split
Yeah.
the difference.
I mean, I parked in the neighborhood across the street, and it's just the road is wide, and it's not going to be a place that a lot of people will go. So I don't think parking is necessary, but certainly nice to have at least one trail through there. It's beautiful little forest. That's what I thought.
Dan, you got any comments?
No, I mean, I think I agree with Julie. I think we just split the difference and just say that's a medium priority, and certainly doesn't sound like it's a high priority, nor is it low. So let's go with that.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Medium. Okay. I'm just going to highlight it for myself so I remember what we chose.
Yeah, it's just a comment about the fact that there was somebody in there with a tent, and I think if you don't have any kind of trail, then really nobody's going to go in there except for people who like that potentially. Whereas if at least you have, a little bit of use, it is kind of, I don't know, it seems to me that, that's a safer way to go in a way. Um,
Well, that was an
encourage
Eagle
more
Scout.
people, but not a lot of people.
That was an Eagle Scout project originally, that trail. And maybe we could get a Boy Scout troop to just go in there once in a while and maintain it. So we don't have to spend any money. That might be a bit of a reach.
Is that
Okay.
allowed?
Pardon me?
Is that allowed for the city to have others like volunteers do trail maintenance?
Well, it has happened in the past. We had a volunteer who got a bit overzealous.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think
I
that
mean,
would prohibit it. Yeah, I don't think there, well, I guess the only thing I can think of it would be like liability, and insurance and things like that. But I think it's something that we could talk to Andy about.
yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
know
there was,
when I
there was
worked for GE, we used to do some trail maintenance in Lynn Woods, but it was overseen by the park ranger.
yeah,
So there was somebody from the city, or the park ranger, oversaw the work that was done. So, I mean,
I see.
that's a good way to go if you can get like the neighborhood even, or as long as they're not just cutting down and,
yeah.
destroying the forest.
Okay. It looks like we had a pretty much agreement on improving hunting or fishing as a low priority. Um, any disagreement on that?
No, it doesn't seem like that's a suitable parcel for that activity at all.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Maintain or enhance privacy. I wasn't quite sure what this was.
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I voted for high only because it's sort of like I was thinking, oh, it's pretty private right now, and just sort of keeping it the way it is, but not to really enhance it. So I don't know if high is even the right scoring here from my perspective.
Just thinking of this now, but I believe Woodsman uses the same form for all of their clients, so including private landowners. So this might be more of a marker for like residential lots that
Yeah.
want privacy.
Yep.
Okay.
Having met with the owner of the property right next door, he was pretty concerned about the city doing anything there. So I think he was hoping it would remain pretty private.
Hmm.
Well, I think if we don't add any parking, even if we do something on the land itself, it isn't going to increase the usage.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like privacy and like this particular line isn't relevant to our city forest because we're not suggesting removing anybody's privacy. we're not suggesting changing the level of privacy of anything, so we could probably ignore that one.
Well, the landowner next door does have a bunch of signs up, and he said that people have removed those in the past. So it's more related to his privacy, but it's still on the border, you know.
Right.
So just a thought.
Okay,
We could
so
add a
this is,
comment if you'd like about the abutting landowner concerned about privacy. I know that's not really, but it's up to you if you want to add that for the Woodsman Inc.'s consideration.
um,
That sort of seems to me like that's the owner, the adjacent property landowner that just doesn't want it to change because he likes it the way it is. It's kind of like his extension of his own wooded property. I don't know. Doesn't seem
Yeah.
like that's a priority for
Yeah.
our analysis.
yeah. I guess I'd mark it as low or just not applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not applicable.
Yeah. Just NA.
Okay, next is preserve or improve scenic beauty. Um, I don't know about scenic beauty. I mean, it's a nice forest.
Yeah.
Um, maybe cross out improve and just say preserve.
Yeah.
I have a question, Kelsey, about these. Do they want like, do they need an answer to all of these? Is this, or just, do they want us to just choose our highest priorities to let them know, or do we have to give them a rating on each one? What's our
Oh, we don't need a rating. No, it's just the X's are, oh, well, as far as high, medium, low, they are asking us to give a high, medium, or low rating for each goal. But
Okay.
I don't think it's super strict. He asked for it to
Okay.
guide the plan. And as a
Okay.
reminder, that plan has a due date of like January 21st, I believe. So they are kind of
Yeah.
crunch time.
Right. Because I mean, I'm just wondering like why we wouldn't put high for all of these things. So how is this being used?
It's as a basis for that climate forestry plan.
Got it. So we just have to give them a general idea of what we want them to focus on in the climate forestry plan as opposed to not focus on, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what this is. Okay.
If you put high for all of them, that's not
Yeah.
prohibited, but that'd be a longer
Yeah.
plan, probably not what you guys want.
Not realistic. Okay, got it.
So may I make a suggestion just in, I'm not sure that it's the best way to go about this line by line. I sort of think about saying maybe we pick out our highest priority goal and start from there and then work our way down. I don't know. It just seems
Yeah.
like we keep bouncing back and forth, and I'm not sure that we're achieving what we want from this discussion. So, I mean, I'm fine with doing it this way, but it doesn't. I'm not sure that it's a very productive way to do it. If that
Right.
makes
Like,
sense.
could we go through and could we see what the tally is for each of these based on what Steve and Janet and Barbara um determined? Because it's really just Dan and I who didn't already comment. So if we could just sort of see like maybe what the outcome of their votes are, and then if there's any.
Well, that's what we're looking at with the X's here. And I didn't identify which one was Janet, Steve, and Barbara, but each row has three X's, and those are where they had placed their rating.
Okay. So was there any outcome from their votes? What came out the highest came out?
Let's see. So it looks like the highest is increased forest resiliency.
Yep. So that's the only one that got 3.
That's the only one that got 3. Correct.
Okay, got
Well,
it.
they all agreed on low as
Yeah.
well. There's a few that were in agreement as the lowest priorities. So we have, and I'll just highlight these for now.
Yep.
We can move it. But low priorities, we had lower property taxes, producing firewood for personal use, and the hunting and fishing, which we already discussed.
Right. So if we looked at where there were threes and twos for high priority, maybe that's a good place to start, like Dan was saying. Maybe that gives us sort of like an idea of where we really want to focus and see if we can agree that those are everybody's top priorities. Does
Great.
that make sense?
Okay. Sure.
So we hit all the threes.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's scroll up a little bit. We got preserve or improve scenic beauty.
I would
We
agree
have
with that.
two X's here.
I'm just wondering because I think most of us had in mind that the city doesn't really want to spend money here, but it's a beautiful forest right now, but in the future, maybe it won't be if nothing is done. But I don't know as if I'm even qualified to actually, I would like to see it always look beautiful. You know what I mean? And that's like
Well, I think
that's the
it's really nice looking, but it's a very mature forest, meaning it's all upper canopy. There's nothing or very little growing low or medium canopy, which would help increase the diversity of, well, the plants that are there and also what's available for wildlife. So, I think there's little things that can be done that wouldn't drastically change things immediately, but, over time, you'd get a healthier forest. And I think, uh, I suspect that, each one of these things that we might say is a high priority, you don't have to tackle them all in the same year. You could say, okay, we're going to spend $3,000. And if the city can't find $3,000 in their budget, then there's something wrong. They seem to find it for a lot of things that I don't consider are necessary. But anyway, that's whatever.
So it looks like just from quickly looking at this that like enhancing habitat for birds, for streams, ponds, and wetlands, for plant species, for forestry, that the enhancing habitats are what we kind of want to focus on. Increasing resiliency, protecting water quality, looks like was big, and
It is very close to the reservoir.
Yep. Yeah. So that's huge. And then protect land from development, I think is super important. Obviously, we're not going to sell it. I don't think we need to worry too much about it since the city already owns it. But yeah, I would agree with all of those high priorities. So you could put my checkbox on those too.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I feel like that's
Okay.
So,
Like we're in agreement here.
yeah.
so if
And
we,
with- oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, if we took the ones that have two X's in the high priority and the ones that have three X's and make those the ones that we tell Woodsman or what we want to do or would like included in the plan.
So this so far, I know it's like I can either scroll out so it's barely readable or scroll in, but then we're missing some. Right now we've identified as high priorities: preserve or improve scenic beauty, enhance habitat for birds, enhance aquatic habitat, habitat for wildlife, promote diversity of plant species and habitat types, and protect land from development. Are there any other that we want to identify as high?
Yeah, the protect water quality.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
you missed that one.
And we talk a lot about suppressing or eradicating invasive plants. Is this a place to look at that? Because we often put that in our conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Would be funny not to have that in there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing that between that and also damage from forest pests which I think goes next to like resiliency. Both of those seem important too. Um, I would maybe put the invasive plants one as a high priority because it seems like if we're doing a forest management plan, one of the things that we can actually accomplish in there might be to get rid of some invasive species. That would be like a good project. So it'd be good to get some recommendations around that from the plan.
Okay, I agree with that.
And did we agree with that? Minimize damage from forest pests. I guess those two probably go hand in hand.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Woodsman is probably mostly looking for goals that they should focus on and some that they really don't need to. I don't know that it's super critical that we distinguish between medium and low priority, but it's probably helpful for them to know what we definitely consider low priority. So for low, we have improved hunting or fishing, the firewood for personal use, and lower property taxes. Are there any others that we would really want to point out as a low priority that they should not be focusing on in the plan?
I kind of feel like anything that, like the agroforestry, or producing income from timber, those seem like low priorities for this particular parcels. I don't see a realistic plan for implementing any program that would do that out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, I guess though, if trees had to be taken down,
Mhm.
then you want to make some money off of it potentially.
Mhm.
Well, there is value to dead trees just laying on the ground.
Sure, that is
Um,
true.
the only reason I would hesitate to try and sell it, because then you got to get it off the land, and it makes it very obvious that you're doing something and might cause concern. The neighbors would probably be up in arms if they saw us hauling logs out of there. Okay, anything else anybody wants to add or change here?
I would
I
say
think,
enhancing the quality and or quality of forest products would probably be a low priority as well. Along that same line, that
yeah,
sort of sounds like more of an activity for, if you have a forest that you're trying to use for production of goods of some kind. So I did just, I'm not against that. I just don't think this is a suitable place for that.
no, no, I don't think so either. Okay, Kelsey, I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, everyone. The forum does also have a space for comments. So, I can include the comments that I've received from Steve, Janet, and Barbara, just kind of as, in the context of like for your consideration. If anyone else has written comments they'd like to be submitted to Woodsman, feel free to email me. Or if you have them ready, happy to take them down now. But I'll plan on sending this to Woodsman by probably on Friday, end of the week. And so you can email me anytime before then, and I'll make sure they're included.
Can you scroll down to them, Kelsey, just so we can read them?
Yeah, I think this was Barbara's comment, and then some of you had left these smaller comments up above. Let me see it.
Thanks.
No problem.
Yeah, that's a good comment about the comparison to Mosley Woods, because that is so heavily used. It's you can see the effects of that use on the forest. It doesn't really enhance the forest. So yeah, I agree with that. I don't think we would want it to be like a Mosley Woods property.
No. Okay. I think we're done with
Great,
that.
thank you.
Next is any updates from the chair? No, there's nothing. Environmental planner or planning director?
Any updates? None for me. As an FYI, for anyone interested, I received an invite to a Wetlands Protection Act boot camp for conservation commissioners. I actually can't make it, but it's tomorrow night in Groveland, Massachusetts, and it's free. So if anyone is interested, I think a lot of you are already seasoned, but a couple of you are new. So if you wanted some kind of boot camp intro training, I can send you information about that. Sorry for the short notice. It's tomorrow night. That's it.
Okay. There's also MACC offers a whole bunch of classes
That's a good point.
that they like commissioners to take, and the commission pays for you to take them. If you go to their fall or winter meetings, a lot of them are offered there. If you go to the one that's February or March, it's held at Holy Cross. You can get 2 or 3 of them out of the way if you go there. And they also have a really good lunch. So anyway,
How would we know about that? Does somebody circulate information?
actually, I don't know.
Well,
Julia used to put
you
out.
guys, all the commissioners should be members of MACC because we pay for annual dues
Yeah.
for everybody to be members. So, and then the MACC should have your email address and send you updates. And when an annual conference is coming up, they should send you notice about it, and then like the agenda and all the classes that you can take. And if you want to register and do any of them, which maybe now some of them are hybrid. It used to be you had to go to Worcester to Holy
Yeah.
Cross, but then you can register and the commission will reimburse you from our account.
I did a couple last year and they were online.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure because just figured this all out myself, that you're on that list. And you can follow up with me about making sure that you get all those invites because they are very helpful trainings.
That'd be great. The only thing I've gotten so far was this Alicia Galen, wetland circuit rider. Matt,
Yes.
is that who it is?
Well, she is separate. She's actually the one leading the boot camp tomorrow. She's a DEP employee, and her full-time job is helping agents like me and then conservation commissions. MACC is more of a volunteer kind of board of people who direct the trainings, but they're all very interrelated. I think Alicia will, give talks at MACC events and things like that.
Okay.
Kelsey, do you know if you can get credits towards I guess it's a certification, right? That you get through MACC.
That's a good question. I don't see any talk about credits on this flyer that I received. I think it would just be for if you would find it helpful. It looks kind of almost like a 101. It's a 1.5 hours, and it goes over the basics, the WPA framework. If anyone's interested, I can forward the flyer to you, but I just thought I'd let you know that that's going on.
Okay. Anybody got anything else? Okay. One last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. Roll call vote. Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Janet Daisley,
Yes.
Julia Godfredson,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night.
night.
Go watch the
you.
Celtics game.
Good
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
night.